Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. I just wanted to grab a very quick 10 minutes of your time to talk about these briefs that have come out in the last couple of hours about a restricted transfer budget. Now what will happen with that is people will have a field day. Some will use it to attack Ineos, some will use it to attack the Glazers, some will use it to attack even Erik ten Hag. But let's look at the facts, let's look at where we are, and let's look at why this was always a risk if the Glazers stayed at the football club, and why actually I don't blame Sir Jim Ratcliffe and I don't blame Erik ten Hag. But let's look at the briefing first. We're getting briefs that Sir Jim Ratcliffe will reduce the transfer budget of what we've seen in recent years. In fact, Mike McGrath, one of the journalists reporting this, says that it will be a far cry from the £175 million that was spent last summer. Well, we need to spend about £300 million, Sir Jim. So what does this mean for Manchester United? It's a real shock for the fans, but it shouldn't come as a shock or a surprise. We've always hoped that Ineos would make a big splash in this transfer window. And in fact, this just shows the hypocrisy of journalism and what we understand as fans and what we're hearing. There's blatant hypocrisy from what we've heard. You know, Elise deal is basically done. We want Branthwaite, we want Tadibo, we want Frimpong. You've just spent over £175 million straight away. So it always is something that I would always say. We're a fan community and we're here to give you what we get told and react to the news as well. But I will always say this. If somebody knew everything, they'd be a very powerful person, and they don't. And I don't think even Sir Jim Ratcliffe or the Glazers know everything. I think they're stuck in a situation that's very fluid. But look, the restricted budget, is this something we need to concern ourselves with? And is it something that has a massive effect on the manager, who the manager could be, the owners, etc.? Look, we're in massive amounts of debt. Let's look at the facts first. When Glazers were selling Manchester United, it was because it wasn't making any money. Brands weren't interested, the stadium needed renovating, and also we were in massive debt. They needed somebody to come in and bail them out, or they needed to sell the club. Now, we hoped nobody would bail them out, because if nobody bails them out, we get rid of the Glazers, we get rid of the debt, we get a brand new start. It would have took a bit of time, but you know, you've still got to deal with FFP. But if you've got a load of money behind you, you can start clearing the debt. You can start making money available. Manchester United's problem isn't necessarily financial fair play, it's liquidity. We don't have a lot of money. Even if we could spend 200 million because of financial fair play, we probably haven't got 200 million. Now, that's different if you are Newcastle or Manchester City. If you can spend 200 million on FFP, you've definitely got the money because your owners are rich. So Man United, you've got to understand that we don't have a lot of liquidity. We don't have a lot of money. So yes, we have financial fair play as an issue, but we also don't have the money anyway. So we are in financial problems, and that is a reason why many of us wanted a full sale. I'm not going to mention Qatar because that's irrelevant in a sense, because it didn't happen, but this is why we wanted a full sale. This is why we wanted the debt cleared, because it would have took a bit of time to adjust our financial fair play, but we would have had the financial backing to do it. So we don't have that. We've got a 25% partial owner who's basically bailed the Glazers out and wants to make Man United great again, but still has the Glazers and their debt pulling them down. So I don't necessarily blame Ineos. How is this going to impact our summer transfer window, and is Ineos or Ten Hag to blame? Well, the honest answer is it could have a massive impact. We might not have a lot of money to spend. We might not be able to buy all these players. I look on social media today and I see Branthwaite for 40 million, and then I see Branthwaite for 80 million, and I think, well, we can't afford it. We can't afford to buy Branthwaite just because he's British and he's left-footed. There'll be 5 or 6 European left-footed centre-backs that you can buy for 40 million quid. So go and buy that. I saw that today, that Ineos are focused on bringing in British talent. I don't understand it. We must always have a homegrown element, but we can generate that through our youth development. Why are we focused on buying British players? What is the obsession? We can easily hit our homegrown talent quota by developing and promoting from within our youth system. We don't need to overpay on British talent. They're expensive, and I don't really understand it. The Premier League has been for years built upon foreign influx players, and every successful Premier League team that's won the title has had a hardcore of foreign players. So I don't understand why we go back to, look, I'm not on board with it, is the honest answer. I'm not, I'm showing a bit of chest. I'm not on board with it. I'm not on board with it. I'm bored of it. I'm not on board with it because I don't really care about signing British players. I don't, because they're overpriced, and we need quantity, not necessarily spending that amount of money. So Branthwaite's price will have to come down a hell of a lot. I think we all know that. Sorry, I'm just trying to hold this a little bit because my hand's getting tired. I'm only doing 10 minutes, but it didn't hurt this much yesterday. So yeah, I think we will be restricted in our budget, but I also feel that Ineos will want to make a splash. It's their first summer. They want to do things. We are quite advanced with a number of exciting signings. Do I blame Ineos or do I blame... Oh, I just want to say this as well, very, very important. There are some people out there that are trying to pin this onto Erik ten Hag. And, you know, that is to be completely expected, of course. They're trying to say that... you know, the 400 million's been mentioned again. This is on Erik ten Hag, and this is a reason he needs to go. We haven't got any money to spend because of Erik ten Hag and all that nonsense. Can I just say that Erik ten Hag, when he came to Manchester United, was not employed as a director of football or a CEO or a technical director or the guy in front of funds or the guy who goes and negotiates his wages. He was a manager. And if you're a manager of a football club and your football club says, we've got £400 million to spend, leave it to us, who do you want? Then you're going to say, crack on with it. Mourinho would do it. Pep would do it. The failure of the signings that Manchester United have made do not fall on the shoulders of Erik ten Hag at all. Casemiro was not even in his top three. Varane was not even bought by him. It was bought by Oli. I've heard that mentioned today. Sancho wasn't bought by him. He was bought by Oli as well. Antony is probably heading towards being a flop, but there is absolutely no way that Erik ten Hag signed off that deal for 80 million. He wanted him at the start of June. Man United dithered, and a £50 million player went for 85 million euros. So that was on Murta, that was on Arnold. We spent a hell of a lot of money on Casemiro and Antony that was down to them. Martinez we overpaid for, and you know, Rasmus we probably overpaid a little bit for, but these are negotiations. This is not on Erik ten Hag. And also the flip side of that is that Ineos are very focused on bringing through younger players, which will be a massive money saver for us. And look at Man City. As much as we moan about them, Southampton got promoted and it kicked in an obligation to buy a player that's been on loan at Southampton from Man City that you've never bloody heard of for 20 million quid. Man City's movement and ability to bring money in for FFP purposes, I mean, that's 20 million per pure profit. So Ten Hag has actually succeeded in bringing through young players. Garnacho, Mainu, Cambuala, they're coming through and there's plenty more coming through. So this news to me is a bit of a nothing. It really comes down to what's our transfer budget. Going back over the last few years about what we've spent, well, that lies with Judge, Matt Judge, Richard Arnold, John Murta, they're all gone, and Ineos are here. A focus on developing youth, we're already doing it, and that will save us money, and that's been done by Ten Hag, Nick Cox, and the great work that they're doing there. And really, this whole brief is just really about Man United might not have the money we want to spend. Well, we sort of suspected that when Ineos got into bed with the Glazers, because we know the Glazers are broke, and we know that Man United are broke, and if Ineos are not going to throw in a load of their own money for transfers, why would they with 25%? Then it could be a challenging summer. But I retain hope. I do retain hope. And I'd be very interested to see what you think in the comments. What are your thoughts on this brief that is coming out that Man United may have a very reduced summer transfer budget? What I will say is, though, and I said this morning, I'm a little bit lost on the whole I'm a lifelong Man United fan. I'm a little bit lost on the putting the Manchester back into Manchester United. I'm a little bit lost on making Man United the best club in the world again. Because when I look at the links to Southgate, the links to Tuchel, and I look at we've got a reduced transfer budget, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole. It doesn't actually fit. You can't be the best team in England and the best team in the world if you've got a low transfer budget. You can't be the best team in England and the best team in the world if you're considering Gareth Southgate. So I'm a little bit worried about the words and the statements of what's going to happen under this ownership, and then some of the stuff we're hearing that's going to happen. But what I would say is that we don't know what's going to happen yet. I certainly don't blame Ineos, by the way, and that might shock some people. They've inherited a club in massive debt. I'm not shocked by this. Now, people will try and spin this towards Ten Hag or somebody, you know, maybe they'll blame Ineos. I firmly don't blame Ten Hag for this. I think the ownership spent too much money under Mourinho, spent too much money under Van Gaal, spent too much money under Ollie. This is a legacy. We spend ridiculous agent fees, ridiculous transfer fees, ridiculous wages. I mean, it's appalling, and that's not the manager's job. The manager is employed to manage. The manager is employed to win trophies. The manager is employed to develop youth. And I think Ten Hag did that. Ollie didn't do it, obviously. Mourinho did to a certain extent. This is on ownership. I think this whole financial issue at Man United has got nothing to do with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or Jose Mourinho or Eric Ten Hag, and has got everything to do with the Glazers, Richard Arnold, Ed Woodward, and John Murtaugh and people like that, who are, the Glazers are still here. I don't blame Ineos for it, because Ineos have done exactly what it said on the tin. I don't blame Ineos for it, because Ineos have done exactly what they said on the tin. They bought 25%, a club in debt that is still half owned by the Glazers. If anybody thought we were going to come into this summer transfer window and spend £300 million of Ineos's money, well, we can't do it because of FFP anyway, but it wasn't going to happen. This is why I and many other people will still, and I'll never change my mind, this is why I wanted a full sale. This is why I said a year ago, our only hope is a total and utter reset. A reset was Glazers out, debt gone, start again from the basement. It's not Ineos's fault that they might not be able to spend a lot of money in the summer, because they're inheriting a club that is still retained a lot of the problems that were there a year ago. The Glazers are still here. The debt is still here. And we've got a stadium that's rotting. We've got massive, massive, massive problems that haven't gone away and didn't go away just because Ineos bought us for 25%. So for me, I don't blame Ineos. This is the reality of what this purchase was always going to be. A very long, challenging project that has to go right with every decision. I remember saying, I'll leave you with this. I remember saying this. Didn't want this deal, wanted a full sale. But what I said is, I was asked, could it be successful? And I said, for it to be successful, it's 5 years and everything's got to go right. You've got to make every decision right, whether it's the stadium, whether it's the manager, whether it's signings, whether it's sales. Everything you get wrong will take longer than 5 years. And of course, that's why I've been very passionate about the manager situation, because I think if you bring a new manager in, you're taking us back 2 years to the start of another manager. So I'm talking 6 or 7 years now. So I'm not surprised by this. I'm not scared by this brief that's come out that Sir Jim wants to focus on cheap signings and young players. We're already focusing on our youth. We've got 2 or 3 players that I think are going to be ready in the next 18 months to add to the Mainus and the Garnachos. We do need to bring some players in. We're going to have to box clever. But don't be shocked or surprised. This is the reality of a Glazer ownership that is still very much a problem for Ineos and a problem for any manager. Get your comments in below. We're live again at 8. Thanks everyone for watching. Oh God, my arm's killing me.